I laughed when my crush asked me out. When I got to school, I didn't know my life was going to change. It was a normal Monday, and I was exhausted because I didn't get much sleep the night before. As usual, I met my best friend in front of the main building, and we entered the school together. As we neared my locker, that's when I spotted him. My crush. Jason was a huge nerd and super smart. I got tongue-tied every time I was near him. He never gave me the time of day, though. I doubted he even knew I existed. I tripped over my feet when I saw him and nearly fell over if it wasn't for my friend's steady hand on my arm. He smiled at me as we passed, his dimples poking out, and I nearly had a heart attack. I choked on my saliva and tried to smile back, but it probably looked like I was constipated. He turned away from me and hurried down the hall, and I breathed out a sigh of relief. Crisis averted. Are you ever going to ask him out? My best friend asked curiously. No way. I'm not forward with guys at all. You know this. I opened my locker and grabbed my books for class before slamming it shut. I've decided to be single forever. My friend shook her head at me. If that's what you want. She thankfully dropped the subject after that. I had most of my classes with Jason, and I dreaded seeing him after embarrassing myself in front of him that morning. We headed to homeroom and arrived right as the bell rang. My seat was right behind Jason's, and I cringed when the chair scraped loudly across the floor as I dragged it back to sit down. My heart raced in my chest, and I prayed that Jason was deaf. No such luck. He twisted in his seat and smiled at me again. Hey, are you okay? I saw you almost fell earlier at the lockers. Great. Of course he would have noticed that. I forced an awkward smile. I'm fine. Yeah. I ducked my head as my face turned red. I was so bad at this. His smile widened. Glad to hear it. Did you do the history homework last night? Why was he still talking to me? I glanced up at him and jerked my head in some kind of movement that I hoped resembled a nod. Jason thankfully turned back in seat when the teacher cleared her throat. I dropped my head onto my desk with a thud, turning it to the side to glance at my best friend. She grinned and gave me a thumbs up. I shook my head at her. When the teacher finished talking, Jason turned to look at me again, and I sat up straighter. Can I talk to you really quickly after class? I frowned in surprise. Sure. Is everything okay? For once in his life, he looked nervous. Of course. I just have something to tell you. Then he turned back around, cutting off the conversation. I glanced at my bestie and she nodded, probably thinking he was going to give me good news. I was nervous throughout the rest of the class, tapping my fingers on the surface of the desk until the teacher glared at me to be quiet. Then my knee wouldn't stop bouncing. My heart began racing in my chest when the bell finally rang, signaling the end of class. Jason stood and smiled at me, motioning with his head for me to follow him. He led me out of the main building and toward the quad where he stopped and turned to face me fully, swallowing thickly. Then he smiled crookedly. Hey baby, I noticed you noticing me, so I just want to put you on notice that I noticed you too. I stared at him in confusion for a moment before cracking up laughing. It took me a moment to realize what he was saying. Was that a pickup line? His smile widened. Was it bad? No, it was great, but I wasn't expecting it, I said. I had to catch my breath. What are you saying? Jason took a breath. I want to go out with you. I had to clamp my lips shut to keep from squealing out loud, but I couldn't stop the huge smile from spreading. Really? I just wanted you to know that I saw you too, he continued. I'd love to be your boyfriend. This time I couldn't contain my joyful squeal. Yes, of course. He laughed and wrapped his arms around me. I sank into his hold and closed my eyes, and hopefully I would stop embarrassing myself in front of him now, but I doubted it.